Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. It is 10:15 on a Wednesday morning, April 22nd. I hope everyone's doing good. Pretty great and kind of a cold day. I actually turned the heat on a little bit ago. It's kind of ridiculous. Pretty chilly last night. And then, which was Tuesday, Monday night, it got really chilly out. It was kind of I'm ready for the warmer temperatures. I mean, I know we're in spring. We're I don't know a month or so into spring, but Jesus Christ. But anyway, I hope everyone's doing good. So again, I want to thank all of the new subscribers who have come up and joined this little thing that I do called Film Fanatic. I really, really appreciate it. Always, I'm always finding about movies that I really want to talk about, and just I did a show the other day on just kind of a little. It was basically just an informal talk about movies so far that I've seen in 2026. Movies that I liked, movies I didn't really wasn't really crazy about, and then movies that are coming out this year, and just trying to like compare this year to last year 2025, and then the year before 24, which I thought, especially 2025, which I thought as far as new movies goes, was a pretty exceptional year. But this year has been pretty rough. I think it's yeah. There's a new movie out, Lee Cronin's The Mummy, which I have no absolute absolutely no interest in seeing. I've really lost a lot of faith. Well, I wouldn't even say I had faith, but I really am not a big fan of Blumhouse these days. I've been really disappointed with their movies. They had this weird thing where they were trying to. Blumhouse was kind of re-releasing, or was going to try to make these modernized versions of kind of the Universal monsters. And the first one that was kind of gonna, I guess was like the official, unofficial kickoff was the Invisible Man that came out a few years back now, which is a awesome movie. And then that was going to follow. That followed the following movie was The Wolfman, and then now, which just came out, The Mummy, and I believe there's going to be a handful of other movies all tied in with the Universal monster world. And I was so utterly bummed out and well, pretty much just hated The Wolfman. I just thought that movie was an utter such a disappointment. That was definitely like the biggest disappointment. I think yeah, technically it came out last year, 2025. That movie was the biggest disappointment, and it went from a place of where I was so interested in that movie. I was so the anticipation to see the Wolfman was so high because I'm a massive genre wise. I probably love werewolf movies the most. So I was so looking forward to it. Also, the director Lee Winnell, I think, is a really great director. He made The Invisible Man and directed it and wrote it. He's done some really great work. So I don't know what the hell happened. And I've heard that this new one, which is again another continuation, Lee Winnell obviously didn't direct it, but this new one is supposed to be kind of a continuation of this whole kind of reimagining or modernized version of the Universal monster movies. And I haven't seen it, but I've heard it's terrible, like terrible. And from what I've read about this movie, is it suffers from a lot of the same things that were so well beyond problematic for the Wolfman, where it's the Wolfman was a wolf movie based on the Lon Chaney character, the Universal monster classic, werewolf movie, and it was marketed as a werewolf movie, but or a Wolfman movie, but there was no werewolf in it. There was no werewolf lore. or mythology tied to it. It was a werewolf movie without being a werewolf movie. That was the biggest disappointment. And then I feel, from what I've read, again, I haven't seen it, but from what I've read about The Mummy, is it's the same kind of thing of where they're trying so hard to make it new and fresh and hip or whatever that it's not even a mummy movie. It's just all this bullshit. So I don't really have any I have no desire to see it, and probably I'll probably see it. I'm definitely not going to go see it in the theater. I'll I possibly might see it on DVD when it comes out on rental, but I don't know. The other the one movie, and this is kind of a an odd thing, but the one movie I'm really excited about seeing, and I believe it's coming out next month, is Curry Barker's new film, or his first film, which is called Obsession. And I've heard that this movie is just gonzo crazy. It's gotten a lot of hype and a lot of praise from pretty reliable sources, somewhat, from what I've read. But again, it's like it's gotten so hyped to the point of where I'm a little bit worried. I'm a little bit concerned. So it's weird. It's you know my explanation for thinking this way might sound strange, but I guess I'm kind of a strange person. But anyway, Corey Barker is, I think, an extremely talented guy. He's got a YouTube channel that he has had for quite a few years. He's kind of built this like YouTube empire, and he has a really great YouTube channel. He does a lot of kind of comedic horror based media, if you will. He's done a lot of these like little comedy skit shows on his channel, but he's also directed these very short little films that are actually pretty good. They're really uber short, uber low budget, but they're actually kind of scary. And I definitely think Corey Barker is a extremely talented guy, and he's a young guy, and he's got so much creativity. So this movie that's coming out, Obsession, is his debut. And again, I am very excited to see it. I'm hoping it's getting a wide release, and I think it's coming out at the end of either this month or mid next month. I'm not quite sure, but pretty soon. And it got or I should say, the movie was had been shown and had premiered. Obsession premiered at quite a few different horror festivals throughout the year, and from what I read, this movie was just really adored and was applauded as being pretty much the best thing that was around and that is around. But at the time when the film came out, when Obsession, or at least when the movie was premiered at some of these festivals, there was no distribution deal. And I guess because the movie has been doing so well with audiences and reactions, it got picked up by Neon, which is a major distribution company. So from what I read is that now Obsession is getting a wide release, and it's going to be nationwide. So it's a big deal. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, because I do think it's, you know, a pretty low budget film, and this is, for all intents and purposes, a debut film from a relatively unknown director. He's got some big time clout, as I'm going to get into now, but I think given that this is his first movie, and he's still relatively unknown, even though within his YouTube world and the popularity of the shorts that he's done, the short horror films, he's gained a huge following, and he does have kind of this built-in audience at this point. Still, he's an unknown. So I'm really, really hoping it comes to Maine. I have a feeling it might. We'll see. But being that it's still technically a kind of a low budget indie film, sometimes they don't always get in the places they need to be. But I'm hoping it will because I definitely want to see it in the theater. So, but the movie hasn't come out yet, and it's still a month away. And I just saw last night that Curry Barker just got hired to be the new director for A24's Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, which is fucking crazy. Like, that's insane. A24, I guess it was last year, got the rights to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the franchise. And it was announced that they were going to be making a Texas Chainsaw Massacre television or series, TV show for I don't know if it was Netflix, but A24 is going to do a TV show based on Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but then they were also going to do a standalone film. And it was just announced yesterday that Curry Barker got the gig. And really when it looks, when you look at what that is and the significance of that, like that's fucking huge. Like that's the biggest gig I think a person could probably get right now in in the world in the year 2026 in regards to horror. Like I think that's the biggest gig that someone could possibly get as a director. I mean, that's crazy. That's insane. I mean, you have A24, that's one of the biggest kind of more or less indie horror or I mean, I hate this term, but people always call it like elevated horror, which is like, okay, I just think it sounds so pretentious, but it's they've emerged as one of the biggest companies around, when it comes to horror films. But they do other styles. It's not straight horror, but they're mostly known for doing these, kind of unique and original horror based films. I have not really. There's some of their films I have really liked, but as of late, I've been really disappointed with A24. I'm just gonna say it. I've been really disappointed with you know movie with their movies, and I feel like it's this thing of where it's been this weird thing of like style over substance, and I don't really feel like the last few movies of theirs that I've seen look really cool. They have great premises. They have a really unique look. They have definitely a certain kind of originality to them. But when it comes to just being a good movie and a good story, it totally falls flat. The last two A24 films I saw, I was really kind of disappointed with. They did one staring. Probably fucking up the title, but one that I saw that came out last year, staring, or something like stare into the TV glow, and then one that I did see in the theater, Undertone. And both of those movies were so incredibly hyped as being these like groundbreaking horror films and really innovative and all this stuff. And I saw them and I was just again, I thought Stare to TV Glow was looked really cool. It was an interesting premise, but I thought it was Snoresville. I thought it was totally boring, and it just had this. After a while, I just felt like there was this air of pretentiousness around it. Like the filmmakers were trying to make it so art house or what have you, to where it wasn't really the focus. The focus wasn't really about telling a story or about making something. Telling a story and introducing these characters in that particular story as something that you have empathy towards, and that it can move along and it can be interesting. But it was all of this stuff around kind of the visual aspect of the movie that I thought looked really really cool, but I you can't, for me, and again it's just my opinion, you can't make the whole style over substance thing. Like you can't make the visual aspect or the aesthetic or even in a lot of ways the atmosphere being, you can't make that the central character. It's like building a house. you have to have a good foundation first, and then all of those other things, the exteriors, the lighting, the cinematography, the editing, all of those other things are secondary. And I felt like that movie was so overly hyped, and I felt like it was, when it came down to just the story, it was boring as all hell, super overly hyped, and I just felt like it got into this area where I just felt like it was really, I don't know, really pretentious, and I didn't dig that movie really at all. I thought it looked great. I thought some of the music was cool, and the same thing with Undertone. I thought, again, interesting premise. It had some unique qualities, you know, that I thought were cool. The same thing with with Staring at the TV Glow. But when it came down to the story and characters, characterization, building up a, as a viewer, building up rapport with those characters. You care for what's happening. You care about the characters. All the characters have a something to say. That wasn't the case. I didn't think with any of those, with either of those movies. And again, it was just that same thing of where it was really pretentious. It was boring as hell, and it was style over substance. Both those movies offer some really cool ideas. They bring a lot of new ideas to the table, but they're just, at the end of the day, just, I feel, poorly executed, and there's no story. But anyway, I won't go off, keep talking about A24. I do think they've done some incredible films, especially earlier on. They did more or less help the introduction of, bringing some really incredible directors to the table, and some great films that were, totally independent voices before. And they've taken some creative chances and risks as a studio. So why I'm talking about this is because I saw all of this in this big huge story that Corey Barker is now going to be the director of the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, which is, I don't know if it's going to be a reboot or a reimagining. And there's been all of this praise, and a lot of people are already saying that Corey Barker is the cat's meow, the greatest, horror director right now in 2026 as far as new and fresh faces. And I'm just like, whoa, my reaction to when I see that is like, whoa, people, let's slow the fuck down here. First of all, like, he he has not even, his movie has not even come out yet. This is, and if anything, this is his first movie. He's never directed a movie before. He's only done shorts, which I do like. But going from directing, 20-minute shorts to making a full-length feature is, apples and oranges. I mean, you can't base anything on that. I mean, I do have that opinion that I think Harry Barker is extremely talented, but that doesn't mean that, like, he is automatically a top shelf director. Like, that's kind of ridiculous. But I just thought, like, my reaction to that was like, okay, that's awesome for Curry Barker, and I do think he's incredibly talented, and I am extremely excited to see Obsession. But I have to say, with all of the hype around this movie, I'm a little bit worried. I'm a little bit, I'm going to go into it with an open mind, and I'm hoping it's going to be good because this movie has gotten so much hype that I'm a little bit. It gives me a little bit of pause and reservation that maybe it's gonna be okay. Maybe it's gonna be a good movie. Maybe it's gonna be spectacular, but maybe it's just not gonna be as good as people are saying. So, and we live in a world now, if with the internet, where everything is so hyped and so this and that and so talked about, and there is this thing that happens all the time where people will say this movie is the biggest piece of shit ever made, and then you have other people that are always like, oh, this is the masterpiece and this is the most incredible film in 10 years. There, a lot of the times it's hard finding reviews of newer films, especially horror films, where someone can just give a pretty fair and grounded and fair, a fair and balanced, grounded review of a film. Maybe talk about some of the good things about it, and maybe some of the things that they didn't like about it, but talking about it in a sensible way where it's not like using this kind of weird clickbait thing of where, which is common all the time with the internet, where you have to use these salacious kind of headlines or clickbait things to get hits. This is, the worst movie in 2026. Blah, 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 blah. My review. Click, 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 click. That's what the purpose of that headline is. Or this is the greatest movie I've seen in years. And it's the clickbait mentality. And that plays a lot into it. And I just feel like that's really shitty. I do. Because it doesn't help anybody. It's garbage. And most of the time, it's a marketing ploy or tool, and when you click on videos that do those things, very rarely is that what they're even fucking talking about. So, but we buy into it because we're monkeys. Monkey see, monkey do. So anyway, I have a little bit concerns about this movie, and so it's a little bit mixed. It's a little bit mixed. So again, I just think that this announcement of Corey Barker getting this incredible gig, directing Texas, I think it's awesome and amazing, but I also feel like it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit strange to me. Because at the same time, when I saw this post about it, and again, I really like his work, Curry Barker's work. I have reviewed and talked about his short little films that he's made that are actually, I think, very good. I have, I have shared his stuff with friends, like the short movies that he's done and his channel, and I have talked about him before on this channel, where I definitely think he's incredibly talented, really smart, and really, I think he has this really great sense of how to, maximize each dollar that he has for production, like, because he works all of the projects he's done that I've seen, are he's done them all for like virtually no money whatsoever. So he's like really smart about how to do things with very little money, and he's really creative and like really, doing these really creative projects, but he's got so many limitations. He's kind of almost in this box because he only doesn't use a lot of actors. He's actually a very good actor himself. Barely any money. A lot of his stuff is set in small little locations. So he's really creative and really smart. And I've seen interviews with him. So I'm a fan of his. But when I saw this post that it was announced that he got the gig for the new A24 Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I was like, wow, holy shit. That was my first reaction. I was like, whoa, like that's intense. That's wild. Like that's the biggest gig that a director can get right now in 2026. But right after I had that feeling, again, I saw all this praise, people with this big announcement. It was on social media that I saw this big praise. Everybody is kind of like making Corey Barker as like the best director around, kind of the best, the most exciting new voice in horror, and like the number one guy kind of thing, because he got the number one gig and all of these things. And so after, an hour after I saw that post, I started thinking differently about it. Like I went from like, all right, fucking A, that's awesome, Corey Barker, good for you. Because he works his ass off. I mean, he's been doing the YouTube channel. He does everything himself pretty much, with, aside from his little partnership with his, independent company and his pool of actors. He does everything himself. He's a writer, director, actor. It's insane. So, but my thing was, people are putting him on this giant pedestal. He got the biggest gig around and all these things. Like, that's great and awesome. But then I start thinking, like, come down from that reaction. I'm like, that's kind of crazy, because again, he doesn't. His movie, his first debut movie, isn't even out yet. That's one thing. And I am, because of all of the praise and things that I've heard about this movie Obsession, and it's been talked up and so hyped. And I've been following that whole kind of thing for probably 6 to 8 months at this point because I have no life. I've heard so much positivity and so much hype around it that it's caused me to be a little bit like, ooh, I don't know, like be a little bit more cautious and not, I'm worried that it's not going to be as good as what people are saying. I hope to be completely proven wrong. So, so I have reservations about that. But then I'm like, how is this guy getting, why is he getting so much praise? And like, and he, at that, really, when you look at it for what it is, like, he doesn't have any movies to his credit. He does have one that hasn't even come out yet. And I'm like, geez, I kind of like, my reaction was like, well, wait, like, can we like back off a little bit with like giving, giving, giving the amount of praise that we are, giving him, because let's see what he does first. Like, this is his first movie. He doesn't have, when it comes to films, full length features, he doesn't have any films to his credit. He is essentially unknown. He doesn't have any experience making films. Like, this is a brand new thing. And I'm kind of like, you know, let's wait. Let's wait till he's maybe got a few movies under his belt, and maybe if, when Obsession does come out soon, it actually is really really good. Like, let's like chill out a little bit. Like, because all that kind of praise or hype, like I can see saying that about somebody who is is established, or somebody who has a body of work already. Ari Aster or Robert Eggers. Like, yeah, they have a body of work. They have a body of work that you can look at, and a list of films, and they have a lot of experience making films. So it's just like, it's a little bit crazy. And then I have to say, the other thing that I have really mixed things about A24 now. I really do, because I have been really bummed out by the last couple of movies they've done. Even though I think there are certain movies that they've done, especially earlier on, that are really great, but I just think I have been really disappointed with the last few films. So that's one thing. And the other part of me is like, oh, really? We're gonna make another fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie? Like, really? Of all fucking things? Like, Jesus Christ. That's one part of my brain where I'm just like, God damn, really? Like, how about do something? Let's just shelve that idea, and let's just like get away from doing these fucking rehashed ideas or things based on IPs. That's one reaction. The other side of it is, okay, I Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, is one of my most cherished movies. I love that movie to death. I do love also part two. I do like the reboots. The the beginning, and then the reimagining film that came out with Jessica Biel. I actually really like those movies a lot. But the rest of the franchise, I don't really care for. I don't really like the other films at all. And so it's kind of mixed. It's kind of mixed for me. So I just wanted to make a quick video about that, because I feel like, I hope, as far as the hype aspect, or if like the movie's Obsession is going to be really really good, and then what A24 can do with this established IP. I mean, fuck, Texas came out in 73, 74, and here we are at 2026, and they're still making them. Like, that's kind of fucking crazy. So I don't know. I feel like there needs to be a little bit more balanced, realistic look at what's going on. I'm excited, but then I have a lot of reservations about it. And so I just wanted to make a quick video about the subject. Anyway, peace.